Thank you, Richard. And I just want to say that having gotten to know Richard since we all headed to Venice last June, he is an absolute and utter joy to work with. He's one of the warmest and loveliest guys. But on top of that, he is probably one of the most important visual artists of his generation, both nationally and internationally, and one so young who can read a speech on an iPhone. Now, I'd finally like to ask our Minister Jimmy Dennihan, to formally open this exhibition. Minister Dennihan has been tireless, really, in his commitment over the last number of years to ensure that access, participation and education are key motifs of his ministry, and certainly in terms of bringing this exhibition here and bringing it down to Limerick. We hope that more people and the Irish public will get a chance to see what is a truly powerful and arresting installation. So can you please give a warm welcome to Minister Dennihan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I know it's very dangerous to be the fourth speaker, especially when there were three very good speakers before you, and generally when they said more or less what you were going to say anyway. So I shall be very brief. I would like to thank you, Patrick, for your invitation to be here this evening. This is a wonderful space, as you all know, and I've been at some great events here in the last 3 years, and it makes an invaluable contribution to the visual arts in our city. And it's a real international space, as you all know, and there's a special atmosphere about it. So thank you very much, Patrick. I'm just delighted to be here this evening as well, because I actually announced that Richard Moss would represent us at the Venice Biennale last spring. And I looked at Richard and I said, you look as much like a Kilkenny hurler as you do an artist. And I did predict then, and I was wrong. I predicted right about Richard that he was going to do very well in Venice, and I predicted that Kilkenny would win the All-Ireland Hurling Championship again, which they did not. So Richard, as you know, is not only a great cinematographer, photographer, artist, but he's also a very good writer, as he has proven here this evening. And I'm delighted as well that his father, Nicholas Moss, is here this evening, who's a great potter. His mother is here, Susan Moss, who's a great artist. So it's, I suppose, understandable that the old apple didn't fall far from the tree, really. And really it's great that both your parents here as well. Just could I recognise at the outset the contribution that the Arts Council made to this project and Culture Ireland. And it was really a coming together of both, with Anne O'Sullivan, that selected Richard to represent Ireland. And they made really a very good choice, because, as you know, there are several great young artists now in our country, all looking for international recognition, international experience and exposure. And so in selecting Richard, you selected very wisely. And as you know, he has followed in the footsteps of people like Dorothy Cross, and I suppose Patrick Scott and Carvin Walker, and so many more people that you would know, big names, that a few of them put down here as well. Gerard Burden, for example, Willie Doherty as well. So really, some really distinguished people that you've gone out there representing Ireland with. And Ola mentioned that 80,000 people went to visit the Irish Pavilion. And that was an enormous number of people. Something like 370,000 visit the whole art aspect of Venice Biennale. So it's the place to be in the world for contemporary art. So to get 80,000 of those to visit the Irish Pavilion was an amazing achievement. And I suppose it's understandable, because it was, I suppose, such a topical issue that Richard was, I suppose, putting on exhibition or interpreting. And I'm familiar with the technology used. It's kind of was used by the military in the past, infrared technology. As you know, it can see through the darkness I suppose it can pick up elements that normal photography cannot do it. I understand now that this type of photography now is extant. In other words, it's not used anymore. But certainly Richard did a tremendous job of interpretation, and the word was used that I suppose it represents beauty, this wonderful landscape and people, and then violence. As Orla did say, it's a zone that's really affected with massacres, with sexual violence, with ambushes, and over actually 5.6 million people have been killed there since murdered there since 1998. So he has really captured that whole, I suppose, atmosphere and what's happening in the Congo at this time in this exhibition. And certainly his interpretation has caught the imagination of the world. He was telling me on the way in actually that there has been something like 233 articles based on his work. That's extraordinary. And when you see the New York Times singling out this particular exhibition, it is really very, very important as well. And I just got a quotation from the Foreign Policy magazine, and they regard Richard now as one of the leading global thinkers of 2013. So that's extraordinary that an Irish artist would be recognised as such. So that is really immense. And also, if you look at the Huffington Post website, for example, he's featured there as well. And to achieve that kind of recognition and critical acclaim is really extraordinary. So, Richard, we're really very proud of you and really very indebted to you as well as a country, because he's really representing you young Irish artists really on a world stage and proving that it can be done, which is very important. So congratulations on that. And just mentioning the Arts Council, I would like to just recognise the work of Orla and Evelyn McCran here, who's the acting chairperson at the moment, and just to recognise the great work that Pat Mylan did over 5 years for the arts in this country. Given her time, voluntary, she was nearly full-time at it. And just to tell you that I appointed Sheila Praska as the next chairperson of the Arts Council. The reason being, she was in the Cultural Islande in Paris. Some of you may have come across her in recent years, so she's a huge international experience and connection. Also, she was in the Tyrone Guthrie Centre, and she's been involved in the arts here for years, and many of you would know her, and she has great interest in the individual artist. And that's one of the reasons why, really, I suppose, asked her, would she take this job? And certainly, I think the arts community are in very safe hands in Sheila Praska over the next 5 years. So I'm sure that you'll give her every bit of cooperation. Just in conclusion, this exhibition will move from Dublin to New York, and then it will come back to Limerick. And it's, all of you would know this now by now, of course, it's the National City of Culture in Limerick. And it's got tremendous publicity. But it has had a great first month, let me say. And any of you that was sitting in New Year's night and New Year's Eve would see that great, I suppose, reception from Limerick. People like Dolores O'Riordan, Paul O'Connell, being very proud of the fact that they were from Limerick and that Limerick was the first national city of culture in this country. We've had some really great exhibitions. Again, they were critically acclaimed. The Sunday Times, the very positive article, River Dance sold out. They had to put a few extra staging of River Dance. It's been a great first month. And Michael Fitzpatrick is here tonight with his team. And now this is going to New York, but then it's going to Limerick. And then all over the world, including Sydney and Antwerp, Berlin, I understand. So I'm really grateful that it's now going to Limerick, because it will give the people of Limerick and the Midwest an opportunity to really look at this, because anyone that has looked at this exhibition has been totally taken by it, let me tell you that now, and they've been very much influenced by it in really different ways. So I'm delighted that it's going to Limerick, and it will be very much part of the City Culture project. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here again. Congratulations, Anna, for doing such a wonderful job. Congratulations, Richard. And I'm sure I predicted that this man had a great future back in spring of last year, and I'm delighted now that you're fulfilling that great promise you have and really becoming an international star. So thank you very much.